we want to build the body stronger. I think that has to be the priority first. You need to build a stronger version of yourself, stronger in terms of muscular strength, stronger in terms of your stamina, your endurance, your work capacity. Like, you just need to be a stronger, more robust person. And that's going to come from exercise. Like, there's no other way around it.
Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast with Lee Hayward and Jeff Samataro. Since 1997, Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding has been online helping guys to build muscle, lose fat, and become the best version of themselves. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with real-world practical fitness and nutrition advice to look your best, improve your health, and feel confident in your own skin so you can live life to the fullest without having your body holding you back from doing the things you want to do. So if you're ready to get started, let's jump into the show.
Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Welcome, everyone, to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. Lee Hayward here, Jeff Samataro on the other end. And this is episode number 3. Moving right along. We got some momentum going here.
Yes, we do.
And the feedback we've been getting so far has been very positive. A lot of people are enjoying the content and want to keep that positive momentum moving forward as we're doing this. So today's topic, what we're going to dive into, is discussing fat loss strategies. Like, we're really going to get into some nitty-gritty details and real-world action steps when it comes to fat loss. And I find the summer is a great time to focus on fat loss because you can get outside, you can enjoy the warm weather, and it's easier to exercise and all that versus being in the house in the cold winter months. It makes it harder to be as active as we should. Like, a lot of times people tend to hibernate in the wintertime and put on that layer of unwanted blubber. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. You know? I've done it. But I find the summertime is a good time to really prioritize fat loss. And we're going to dive into some strategies about that. First off, Jeff, I mean, when you came on board with this whole coaching program a while back, like, that was your main priority, was fat loss, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I really wanted to shed the body fat. I was about 60 pounds overweight, so I needed to.
To lose 60 plus pounds, how long was that journey for you?
A year plus, easily. Probably lost like a good 30 pounds and then like pretty relatively quickly. And when I say relatively quickly, I mean like 3 to 4 months, something like that. Okay. And then after that, it was just kind of chipping away little by little.
Gotcha. And it's going to vary for everyone. Like, I know some guys who've lost a lot of weight relatively quickly. Like, I know one of our coaching students who's gone through the program, Steve Patterson, like, he lost 100 pounds in a year, which I consider to be exceptional. Like, that's above average fat loss results. But he committed to the process, just was focused and really made it work. Most people are going to be probably about half that. A general rule of thumb, I think, for long-term weight loss is a pound a week is a very realistic, sustainable, achievable goal for most people. Now, you could push it maybe 2 pounds a week. Like, that's basically what Steve did. That's more on the aggressive side. A pound a week is good. But even if you went slower than that, that's not a bad thing. Slower fat loss or slower weight loss is not a bad thing, as long as it's steady progress. The big thing we want to focus on is making progress and not getting hung up on, you know, oh, I'm not progressing fast enough, this isn't working, and then screw it and go back to my old habits. Or another one, a lot of times people diet too hard, lose a bunch of weight. Let's just say they go on some crazy crash diet, drop a bunch of weight in the first month, but you can't sustain it, and then you end up binge eating, going off the diet because it's just unsustainable. That's not a victory. Like, even though you lose weight initially, if you regain it all back within the matter of weeks or months afterwards, that's not a victory. We want slow, steady progress so that the weight you lose is the weight you keep off. The progress you make is the progress you keep. That's the difference. So we really want to get into sustainable fat loss strategies, but also share some tips on if somebody wants to be a little bit more aggressive with it and amp up the progress, we could do that and then dial it back to a more sustainable, maintainable approach. The first step, I mean, if somebody wants to start to lose weight, get in shape, improve their health, we want to basically lay the foundations and fix any bad habits that may be existing or that probably do exist. I mean, let's face it, if you're overweight and out of shape, you're not happy with your health and fitness, there's probably some bad habits there. So we need to fix that first. And an analogy I like to use is Imagine, you're in a boat and you're out at sea and there's a hole in the boat and it's taking on water. And you're thinking, well, how do I get the water out of the boat as fast as possible? Hey, like, do I use a bucket and dump it out? Do I get a siphon? Do I get a pump? Like, what's the fastest way to get this water out of the boat? And you may be successful in getting the water out of the boat, but if you don't plug the hole, it's going to keep taking on more water. So the same principle applies when it comes to fat loss. Like, a lot of people are like, well, what's the fastest way to lose this fat? Like, hey, should I go on some crazy low carb diet? Should I go on some carnivore or keto or intermittent fasting or different strategies? And I mean, they all do work, but if you don't fix the underlying habits first, you're going to probably regain the weight again as soon as you stop that nose to the grindstone approach. Because again, if you're in a leaky boat that's taking on water, and yeah, you might be able to keep dumping the water out to keep the boat afloat, but the minute you stop that effort, purposely dumping out the water, as soon as you slack off that, it's going to just fill back up again. The same applies with your body fat. If you stop the diet, you regain the weight again. And this is where we see so many people rebounding. They'll go on a short-term extreme diet, lose a few pounds initially, but then if they can't sustain it, they go back to their old habits, they regain the weight back. So we need to establish some new habits first. I've got some core habits that I like to implement into my routine, and I'm going to share some. But I'm just curious, like, what are some of your core habits that you follow to stay in shape?
Yeah, well, prioritizing daily exercise is probably the number one thing. Making sure that I get in some type of daily movement, whether it's a strength training session or a cardio session, or even things like mobility sessions on the days where I don't have the strength or desire to physically exercise. That's the first and foremost thing, is prioritizing that and doing that every single day. Then in terms of nutrition, things like making sure you have lean protein with every single meal, making sure that you're prioritizing vegetables. I eat a mountain of vegetables every single day. With every single meal that I have, always has some type of vegetable in it. Some type of fruit for dessert is typically what I go for there too. And then sticking to that habit 6 days out of the week, 6.5 days out of the week, I should say. And then on the 7th day, on Sunday, I'll typically have some kind of cheat meal at night. But even on a cheat meal at night, it's nothing really too excessive. A couple slices of pizza or something like that. Nothing too crazy there. So just maintaining those core habits, trying to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep every single night, trying to reduce the amount of liquid calories. That's another big one for sure. So cutting out things like soda was really, really big for me. Cutting out alcohol was really big for me. Mm-hmm. And prioritizing those 3 things primarily has been the biggest factor, the biggest change for me.
Let's really dive into that a bit more, because exercise, hands down, I believe, is the most important. And I know this is going to be a bit controversial for some people, because you'll hear you can't outwork a poor diet. And, a lot of people use that as their excuse to create these drastic calorie reductions, because they say, well, you work out, you don't burn that many calories exercising. Like, you could go work out for an hour and then you eat a couple slices of pizza. You just basically canceled out the calorie burn. Mm-hmm. Look at the habit shift. Look at the lifestyle shift that exercise creates. First off, it improves your fitness. And I think that's more important than just weight loss. Building muscle and improving your physical fitness, like your strength, your VO2 max, your cardiovascular health, like all this stuff is so much more important than just losing weight. Because we could starve ourselves and lose weight, and that's not necessarily a healthy approach. People get sick and lose weight, and it's not necessarily a healthy approach. We want to build the body stronger. I think that has to be the priority first. You need to build a stronger version of yourself, stronger in terms of muscular strength, stronger in terms of your stamina, your endurance, your work capacity. Like, you just need to be a stronger, more robust person. And that's going to come from exercise. Like, there's no other way around it. You can't eat yourself stronger. Eating will help to fuel and support the exercise, but you still have the exercise in there. So that's the big one, I think, hands down. And think of everybody that you know personally who's in great shape. People like you look up to and admire, whether it's fitness influencers or people you know locally or personally. Like, everybody you know, what's one commonality they all have? They all exercise in some way, shape, or form. I can't think of a single person who I admire in terms of health and fitness who doesn't exercise or doesn't prioritize it. That is the key. There may be other variables, like some people might follow different dietary strategies or whatever, but they all work out. They all work out consistently. How do you do daily exercise? Like, let's break that down. What's a typical week of exercise look like for you?
Typical week of exercise would look like for me is Sunday. I always do a cardio, like a spin ride or a bike ride. If the weather is nice, I'll go outside. I'll do 3 strength training exercises a week, which are total body workouts, which the way I structure them is I'll do a push and a leg superset, and then a pull leg superset, and then either a push or a pull leg superset. So I'll swap it out depending on what the day is, and then wrap it up with abs at the end. And I do that 3 days a week. I do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursday is other cardio sessions. And then Saturday, I take a rest day. Saturday, because I'm a musician, I'm typically playing and I'm out late on Friday night. So when I wake up Saturday, the day after, I don't really have the strength or ambition to go out and do some kind of exercise. So what I'll do is instead is I'll rest. I'll get some sleep, take some naps during the day and try to keep it low key, and then go out and play at night, which drumming is a form of cardio as well. So doing a lot of moving there. So I'm always active. Every single day I'm doing something that's active. But just want to piggyback off of what you said too, when you said you were talking about exercise being the commonality between everybody. The more you exercise, the more muscle that you build, the more strength that you build, the faster your metabolism is. So you end up burning more body fat in the long run anyway, just by exercising and building more muscle. So it's going to help in twofold with that. You'll build strength, endurance, and you'll also burn body fat as well. You'll often see guys who will drop weight quick and their body composition doesn't change. They just end up just looking like a smaller version of what they looked like before. So if you're looking to make a drastic body composition change, then prioritizing exercise is going to be the way to do that, not just dropping weight. Agree with what you said before, that it's not all just about losing weight. There's so much more that goes behind it. It's like if you want to drop body fat, you want to recomp your body, there's a better approach than just slashing calories down to nothing and trying to lose weight as fast as possible.
Yeah. And one of the hot topics in the industry now is, these medications, Ozempic and Mounjaro and you know what I'm talking about. All these different appetite suppressing medications is basically how they work. I mean, I actually did a video talking about this on YouTube a while back, but it just blunts your appetite. Like, bottom line, that's what it does. It just kills your appetite. Like, it has a hormonal response and you just don't want to eat. Sometimes it actually makes you feel nauseous if you eat. So like you have that sickening feeling. You don't want to eat. And people very often will drastically cut their calories using these medications because they physically can't eat. But what you see is when they actually measure their body composition, they lose weight, but that weight is coming from a combination of muscle and fat. That's not a win. That's a big negative, because if you have less muscle on your frame, now it's so much easier to regain that fat because now you have less metabolically active tissue. So you're burning fewer calories as a baseline. And if you stop the medication and go back to your normal eating habits, then you'll just regain that weight even faster. And now you have less muscle on your frame, so you even have a slower metabolism. It may seem like a step forward initially because, I lost this weight, but it's really 2 steps back. So we want to build the muscle. And before anybody gets into what's the best diet or, how do I slash calories? No, let's focus on building muscle. Let's focus on getting some good quality exercise in there. And when I say exercise, I'm not just talking about cardiovascular exercise, fat burning. We want to get some strength training in there. And I think from a body composition point of view, strength training is more important than cardio. Now, I love cardio. Don't get me wrong. I love cardio and I do it on a regular basis. But if you are looking to improve your physical appearance, your body composition, you need the weight training, the strength training in there. And this is something I've noticed with endurance athletes, like people who run marathons and triathlons, and they do a lot of cardio. They burn a ton of calories from that, but a lot of times they don't have very aesthetic bodies. Now, there's exceptions, some do, but generally they don't. Like if you go to a local marathon or a local triathlon or a local endurance race, you're going to see a lot of skinny fat people. they still have that soft look. Like they don't have lean abdominal definition or muscle definition or anything. They're just like slim and soft. It's not that aesthetically pleasing physique that we associate with like fitness influencers or men's health cover models or whatever. It's just kind of like this skinny fat. And that's because very few of them really prioritize the strength training and building that muscle, right? We need that muscle. And I've even noticed this myself because I've gone through phases like when I would be getting ready for bodybuilding shows, prioritizing weight training supplemented with cardio. And then I've also done the opposite where I've prioritized cardio, getting ready for like cycling races and things like that. And then basically prioritizing cardio and supplementing it with weight training. And even though my endurance and my stamina improved dramatically, my physique suffered, meaning I wasn't as full, I wasn't as muscular looking as when I had prioritized the weight training. So if your goal is body composition and actually looking good and feeling good and having the beach body, so to speak, weight training has to be the priority, building that muscle.
100%. Yeah. And, another thing too, is for guys who like to eat, like for me, for instance.
Most guys do.
Most guys do. Yeah. I eat a ton of food. I do. And I'm down right now to about the low 170s. And I eat more food than most people. And I think it's an easier way of losing body fat in the long term is by prioritizing strength training. I eat all good stuff, all healthy food for the most part, but like I eat a ton. When I talk to somebody who's trying to lose weight and the approach that they're using is, I'm going to cut calories and I'm going to starve myself, but I don't want to exercise. I've met guys like that before too, and I'm sure you have too. I just want to do the diet. I don't want to do the exercise. It's easier to stick to a good diet when you're exercising because you already put in the work. You already went into the gym and did the hard work. You want to fuel your body afterwards with what's going to rebuild and what's going to make you come back to that session stronger. So I found by prioritizing strength training too, it helps me be more committed to my diet long term than if I'm just going meal by meal and then living a sedentary lifestyle at the same time. But I get comments all the time. I'm sure you do too. It's like, wow, you eat a lot of food. It's like, but you're so skinny. But she's like, I wish I was you. I wish I could put it back like you and be skinny all the time and everything like that. And it's like, well, it's not because I have that genetics or anything like that where I can just eat as much as I want and be skinny. It's because I prioritize exercise and because I eat the good stuff. That's what enables me to eat all that food.
That is so true. And we need to have a mindset shift around this. Instead of thinking of starving the fat, we want to build the muscle and then we want to burn the body fat. I'll share this.
Yeah.
Tom Venuto, one of the OGs of the online fitness influencers, he had a book back in the day. Look, you have it too. But that is what we want to do. We want to burn the fat and feed the muscle. That is a great book. Highly recommended. If anybody doesn't have a copy, it's a great read. But that is something we want to focus on. Like instead of trying to starve the fat, you want to feed the muscle, fuel the muscle. And then by having well-fueled muscles, you'll be able to train harder. You'll be able to burn more and burn more body fat. So it's kind of like the opposite approach. Like so many people think, I don't want to exercise. I just want to starve. I just want to restrict. And that's not a sustainable long-term solution. Like that's just a temporary crash diet. And you're going to lose lean mass. Yes, you're going to lose some body fat along with it, but it's not a sustainable thing. I mean, like who likes going hungry? Nobody likes going hungry, but who likes to be able to eat until you're comfortably full and fill up on that high volume, nutrient dense food that's going to nourish your body on the cellular level, give you the strength and energy, and then allow you to train harder. And there's been studies done on this, like the whole concept of G-flux, energy fluctuation, where if you eat more, you burn more. The metabolism is not a set thing. Like a lot of people think, well, go online into these calorie calculators, plug in their age, their height, their weight, and it spits out a number. It says, okay, you burn 2,500 calories. And they think, okay, well, as long as I eat less than that, then I'm going to lose weight. But it's not a set in stone thing. It's not a static. It's always fluctuating based on hormonal factors, based on your activity levels and stress levels and all this. So when you eat more, you actually burn more. Like, and you're more active. You're more willing to get outside and do things and just get off your ass and move. But when you're in that extreme calorie restriction, your body literally slows down. It's like, man, I don't even want to get off the couch.
Yeah.
I just want to do the least amount of activity as possible, right? And you'll see that. Whereas when you're eating a lot, you've got that energy to burn and you're willing to get out and move. So
Yeah.
eat or burn more. We want to feed the muscle and then burn the fat through more activity, more training, more exercise. And that's a much better approach. And it's a much more fun and enjoyable approach because you get to live life to the fullest versus just starve, deprive, feel hungry and weak and irritable. Man, that just sounds miserable. That just makes me depressed talking about it.
Right. Who wants to walk around lethargic all day because they're in a calorie deficit like that?
So we want to fuel the body, not just starve it. And this applies when it comes to the nutrition. And I know you mentioned one of the things you do is you always want to prioritize the protein, prioritize the vegetables. This is a big one I see a lot. People who are trying to lose body fat, they're not eating enough protein. Protein is your friend because protein, first off, it's going to build the muscle. Protein is the raw material that your muscles are made of. You need protein. And the general rule of thumb is a gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's been thrown around the bodybuilding world. I like to modify that a little bit and say a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight or your goal body weight. So just throw out some numbers. Let's say someone is 250 pounds and they want to eventually get down to 200 pounds. Well, strive for 200 grams of protein a day. That's a good benchmark. Vice versa, if someone's underweight and they want to gain, then eat for your goal body weight. Like if someone's 150 pounds and they want to be 175, well, eat 175 grams of protein as your target. Now, some days you're going to eat more, some days you're going to eat less, but have that as your benchmark to shoot for and try to hit that more often than not. That'll make a big difference. And of course, the benefits of protein is one, going to build lean muscle. We just talked about that. But second, it's very satiating. When you eat protein, it naturally curbs your appetites. You just can't endlessly eat protein. I've used this analogy before when we've done like our lose your gut challenges and stuff. And I've shared this. Like if I put 6 donuts in front of you, like, could you sit down and eat 6 donuts? Like a lot of people probably could. If I put 6 chicken breasts in front of you, could you eat 6 chicken breasts? Probably not. I mean, you'd eat 1 chicken breast, 2 chicken breasts, and by then you're like, man, I'm sick of chicken. I don't want maybe I could choke down a third, but like I'm forcing it.
Yeah.
When it comes to carbs, donuts and sweets or whatever, or even pasta and rice and healthier carbs, we can just eat that stuff. Like it doesn't have the same satiation as protein. So protein, vegetables, they're going to fuel you, nourish you on the cellular level, but they're also going to curb your appetite. When you start your meal with those, you're just not going to be as hungry. And then if you do eat your carbohydrates afterwards, you'll be able to eat less of those carbohydrates and feel full, not feeling like you're starving yourself.
So let me ask you, so you said 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal lean body weight. So do you track your protein intake?
I don't strictly track it now, but I do have a ballpark. When I'm making my meals, like I kind of eyeball it now because I've been doing it so long. Like I'll look at a typical chicken breast and I say, okay, that's probably about 30 grams of protein. If it's a really big one, it's probably got more. If it's a little smaller one, it's got less. But I kind of eyeball and guesstimate. I know like a can of tuna fish is 30 grams of protein. I know an egg is 6 grams of protein. So like I just know these numbers so I can kind of like do the math in my head. But I don't sit down and actually strictly track it or use a calorie counting app or anything like that. I used to. I mean, I've went through it for years where I've actually weighed, measured, recorded, tracked every morsel of food that went in my mouth, every down to the forkful. And that was a great tool to help me understand nutrition. For people who are new to this, I do recommend starting with that. Like, hey, get yourself MyFitnessPal or some nutrition tracking app. Start weighing, recording your food, and just learn like what is a good source of protein, what is a good source of carbohydrates, like how much is all these different foods have. Because I'll give you an example of one that I hear a lot. People think, oh, I eat a lot of peanut butter because it's a good source of protein. Yes, there's some protein in peanut butter, but it's a source of fat. Like when you look at it, you got way more fat than you have protein. But I know people personally say, well, I had a good serving of protein this morning. I had a peanut butter and jam sandwich. No, that's fat and carbs. That's very good.
It's funny you say that, Lee, because I have gotten into legitimate arguments with people over peanut butter. People who love peanut butter are super, super defensive of peanut butter. And I get it. I like peanut butter too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I like almond butter mostly, like natural almond butter. But the people who get like the Jif peanut butter that's like real high in fat and they're trying to tell me that they're having a serving of protein with it, it's like, but then when you call them on it, they'll get defensive about it. But they're like, oh, there's a peanut butter is great. Peanut butter is great like that. It's like, oh, okay, buddy. All right. There you go. As they're just scooping peanut butter into their mouth, right? Spoonful after spoonful after spoonful. While I was saying that, I just got a text message from my wife that just said, leave peanut butter alone. So I'm telling you, it's real.
I'm going to post the label of peanut butter on the screen here, and we'll just look. I mean, I think a spoonful is like 8 grams of fat and like 4 grams of protein. And fat has 9 calories per gram. Protein has only 4 calories per gram. So like, it's a serving of fat. It's not, I mean, yes, there is protein and it does count towards your daily protein intake. Don't get me wrong, but you want leaner sources of protein to meet your protein intake. If you're trying to get a gram of protein per pound of lean body weight from peanut butter, you're going to have this massive calorie surplus and you're just going to be boatloaded with so much fat that you ain't going to lose fat getting your protein from peanut butter. You need lean sources, your chicken, your fish, your egg whites, your low fat dairy products, this type of stuff.
I made a swap recently. So I used to have for breakfast, what I would do is I'd get a slice of Ezekiel bread and I would do almond butter on the top and then do honey and like cinnamon. And I was having that for breakfast for like the longest time. And I made a swap. So because I'm trying to adhere to my whole protein at every meal habit. So I swapped out the almond butter. And what I did instead was I did non-fat cottage cheese and then did like a cinnamon seasoning on the top with honey on the top of that instead. So I'm still getting the sweetness that I was getting before that I wanted in the morning. But it just swapped out the almond butter for the non-fat cottage cheese, just to get the protein in to stick to that protein every 3 meals habit.
Low-fat cottage cheese is a great source of protein because when it comes to dairy products, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, they're primarily protein with very little lactose, whereas milk is the complete opposite. Milk is mostly lactose and then protein. So if you look at the labels, a glass of milk has 12 grams of sugar from lactose and 8 grams of protein. Whereas when you look at the label of like cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, it's probably up there in like 14 grams of protein and maybe 6 or 7 grams of sugar in the form of lactose. Again, this depends on the serving size. I'm just looking at the labels of what they put on them, right? But it's like the reverse ratio. It's mostly protein, whereas milk is mostly sugar. So like even when people are trying to say, oh, I drink a lot of milk for protein, yeah, it does have protein, but if your main goal is fat loss, I'd purposely limit it, or it doesn't have to be avoided entirely, but keep it to a minimum, right? Like I personally don't drink milk at all. I get my dairy products from Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. That's my dairy of choice. I don't drink milk, but if you are going to drink it, realize that it's mostly sugar. Another one you mentioned there, the honey. Again, you can still make it work, but honey is pure sugar, right? I mean, obviously you know that.
Yeah, no, it is, but I'm still reaching my weight loss goals, so I still find a way to kind of factor it in there, and it makes sticking to a diet long term more enjoyable for me. So if I have to do that, and I advise people all the time who don't like vegetables, I say add some olive oil to it, or put like some butter on it, or something, like anything that can help you consume it more long term. And then down the line, if you want to cut that out, then you can. But let's just get started. Let's just get started eating more vegetables, and whatever that takes, let's make it happen.
That's actually a good strategy. Like if you can make it more palatable, more enjoyable, even though it's oil of the butter, it's extra fat, but if it can start building that habit, then you can gradually reduce the oil or reduce the butter, but you want to get the habit of eating those vegetables in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like some people think of this all or nothing, and If you're enjoying a little bit of honey on your morning toast and you're still making progress, then that's fine. But like if you hit a plateau or you want to be a bit more aggressive, that's a simple thing to cut out right there because it's just pure sugar. Like say, hey, you want to step it up for the next little while and really dial it in. Like maybe, hey, you got a beach vacation coming up and you really want to see good, sharp abdominal definition for that beach vacation. That's a simple swap right there, or a simple reduction. Just take the honey out. You still have your cottage cheese and toast.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying before about plugging the hole on the boat kind of thing. Then you have some people who they're focusing on small things like, oh, well, I'm not putting honey on my toast, for instance, like that. But then on the weekends, they're going out and they're drinking 6 beers on a Friday night and 8 beers on Saturday night, or something like that. And they're like, I don't get why I'm not losing weight. I'm not putting honey on the toast.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm going 7 days a week by sticking to a very strict diet and I'm looking the way that I want to look and I'm feeling the way I want to feel and I still have the energy to go out and work out every single day, then I'm not going to stress out about honey on the toast. That's a small thing in the grand scheme of things.
It is. And focus on the big rocks first, and not the pebbles and sand. You're absolutely right with that. And this is another one, like a lot of people demonize carbs, you know, like, oh, I can't eat oatmeal. I can't eat potatoes. I can't eat rice or whatever. And they'll go on this carb restriction diet or whatever, like following a keto or some sort of diet like that. And then on the weekends, they have their binge, you know, hey, we went out to the all-you-can-eat buffet, or we went out for pizza. And they sometimes think that because it's a cheat meal, right? Hey, I dieted all week long, but now I have my cheat day or my cheat meal. It doesn't count. By putting a label on it, calling it a cheat day, oh, those calories are just going to evaporate into thin air because they're cheat calories. It doesn't matter. It all matters. It's the total over the course of the week. For example, if you enjoy that little bit of honey, I mean, and we could insert anything. Like for some people, it might be, hey, I want a little bit of barbecue sauce on my steak. And some people say, well, barbecue sauce is sugar, right? Don't have that. But if that helps you to satisfy that little sweet tooth craving and, you know, you enjoy it and that keeps you on track, more power to you. I tell you, one of my little vices that it's a taboo one. I like putting some salad dressing on my salads. Shit. Oh my God. Right. But I mean, when you look at salad dressing, it's just sugar, it's fat. Like there's no real nutritional value in salad dressing, right? It's empty calories for the most part. But that gives me a little bit of eating satisfaction and makes the salad so much more palatable that I eat more vegetables because I have the salad dressing. Now, a little hack that I do, because I like the creamy salad dressings, like the ranch and the Thousand Islands and that type of salad dressing. I like the creamy ones. I'll put some salad dressing on it, and then I'll put in a few heaping spoonfuls of fat-free Greek yogurt, and I stir it up. So it gives me that creamy texture that I want in the salad, but it's mostly Greek yogurt, and then a little hint of salad dressing there to give it that salad dressing taste. And that is very satisfying for me. I mean, I enjoy that, and I have at least one ginormous bowl of salad. One of the guys in our group, he calls it the Jethro bowl, right? Like I get a big cake mixing bowl and I put the whole bag of salad in there, like a salad that you'd normally share amongst the family, right? I put the whole thing and I have it for that's my lunch, right? I have the salad and I'll probably put in a chopped up chicken breast. And that's more often than not, I would say probably like 5 out of 7 days of the week, that's lunches. I'm having a big ginormous chicken salad, and it's very filling, it's very satiating, and it's again loading me up with protein and veggies. But that's a default habit that I've acquired, and I crave it now. I'm at the stage where I actually crave that big bowl of salad.
Yeah, but there's probably less calories in that giant Jethro bowl of salad than there would be with a way smaller portion of less than ideal food choices.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. Plus you get more satiation out of it as well. I've done that for years. I did the salad with Greek yogurt thing for years per your recommendation. And you're full for 6, 7, 8 hours afterwards.
The fiber in the vegetables, it's good for gut health. The fiber, that's what feeds your gut microbiome and bacteria, the good bacteria. I mean, they eat up that fiber. So it's helping there, but it's just slow absorbing, it's filling, it's satiating. I mean, it stabilizes your blood sugar. Like you don't have the highs and lows, because if you eat a big bowl of rice or a big bowl of pasta, you'll get the big blood sugar spike and then crash afterwards. Whereas vegetables and protein helps to stabilize that blood sugar, stabilize the energy, and of course stabilize your appetite, which makes it easier to stick to. Okay, so we talked about exercise. We talked about some eating strategies, protein and vegetables with each meal. What would you do if you wanted to step things up a notch? Like if you were going to be a bit more aggressive, what are some strategies? Like I'm one that I mentioned, of course, you can cut out the honey. And in my case, I could cut out the salad dressing. And I've done that when I've gotten ready for bodybuilding shows, or if I want to be extra strict with my diet, like, hey, we got a beach vacation coming up and I want to be extra sharp in the abdominal definition. I have done that. I've cut out the salad dressing and it makes a difference. Once you have your habits in place, like all these little things, then you just remove that. Then I just instantly removed 100 calories. Another little areas, just cut out the protein bars, cut out this, cut out that. And then next thing you know, like I'm leaning out, even though I'm still having the same core meals, but it's just a few little reductions, like no more salad dressing on the salad, like no more butter on the vegetables, not having anything fried with oil. All those little changes. I mean, you're still eating the same stuff, pretty much the same volume, but it just cut back the calories by a few hundred a day. And that's all it takes. Once you have the habits in place, a few little tweaks like that, and you can dial it in. And then, hey, bump up the cardio, maybe throw in an extra cardio session, an extra walk and things like that throughout the day. And you can easily lean out without going to the extremes of this. I got to go one meal a day and 0 carbs and tweak, dialing it up and dialing it down. Like we've used the analogy before, the thermostat, right? Hey, you can crank it up or you can crank it back. And these are just little strategies to dial it up a few notches. Just pretend you and I now we're going to go on a California beach vacation in a couple months, right? What would you do? You want to have 6-pack abs for Muscle Beach.
So going from lean to like hyper lean is what you're saying?
Yeah. Like double take lean, where people are like, damn, that guy's shredded. Look at that, right?
I would do what you suggested first, is I would go into what I was doing currently and seeing what I could just make some simple swaps to try to cut back on calories. Looking at things like fats, essentially, because fats have the highest amount of calories per gram. So cutting back on olive oil, that's my thing. I like to cook with olive oil. So I would stop cooking with olive oil. I would get rid of the honey, probably cut back on the snacks before bed, and also try to be more mindful of portion control. So that's the hardest part I find, is once I'm eating, I like to continue eating. So walking away after I've reached that point where like, okay, I'm comfortably full and now I can just step away from the table without finishing what's on the plate, that's hard. And that's hard for a lot of guys. I know that's one of our habits that we have in our program, is eating to 80% full. And I know that a lot of guys struggle with that. And people too, they grew up with the whole upbringing of you can't leave the table until your plate is clean. I know I had that when growing up as well. I don't know. Did you, Lee?
Oh, heck yeah. I had to clean the plate and that was it. You weren't allowed to leave until you had everything ate. And I didn't choose the portions. Like mom and dad dumped the food onto the plate, eat this, you have to eat it all or you're not allowed to leave the table. We were bred to be force fed, from a young age. As a parent now, that is something that we have never done with our son Harvey. Knowing what I know now, when he sits down to the table to eat, once he says I'm full, I don't care if the plate is half full or whatever. Like once he says I'm full, I say that's fine. Stop. I don't try and, oh, you got to eat this, you got to eat that. No, like once he decides on his own, like he's in tune with his own hunger and fullness signals. As soon as he says I'm full, we say, okay, that's fine. If you want to leave the table, that's cool. I'm not going to force you to sit here and eat because I want you to eat or because some traditional rules. And he's not helping the starving kids in Africa. Like that was the kid. Did you ever hear that when you were growing up? Like there's people would always say that in third world countries, there's people going without food. So you better eat all the food on your plate. And I'm like, me being a pig here in North America isn't helping anybody in a third world country.
And it takes a lot of constraint to be able to walk away after you've reached a certain level of satiety. But that could make a huge difference right there. Think about the amount of calories that you would cut back over time by just mastering that habit over the course of weeks, months, and years. I mean, you wouldn't have to do anything drastic just by making simple swaps and being able to walk away from the table like that could get you to the body fat that you want for that beach vacation that we're going on in California, which could be a very real thing.
This could be a very true vacation. Who knows? That's right. But that habit alone, I think, could be the key to sustainable weight management. We're conditioned to eat until we're stuffed. Just think of like when you're at a family dinner, like a Thanksgiving dinner, or you're at an all-you-can-eat buffet or something like that. You eat until you physically can't eat anymore. The limit is when I'm ready to burst. Like if I eat another bite, I'm going to vomit. Like that's almost the threshold. That's the gauge. We want to kind of reprogram where we think of, I'm no longer hungry. Not to the point where I can't eat another bite, but I'm no longer hungry. Like my belly is no longer growling. It's no longer hungry. I'm comfortable. And try to get in tune with that. And this isn't something that's just going to be like a light switch, flick it on or off. But each time you're eating your meals, just eat slowly and be consciously aware and think of like, am I satisfied? Am I satiated? Instead of, can I eat more? You could instantly slash a couple hundred calories from a meal easily, maybe more, right? But like easily, if you just slashed a couple hundred calories from a meal and you did that 2 or 3 times a day, that's your calorie deficit right there. Like it doesn't have to be any more than that.
The way I gauge it too is when I get done a meal, I want to be able to, if I had to, go for a brisk walk. If I get done eating a meal and I have to go lie on the couch and I'm burping and I feel uncomfortable, then I ate too much. So, because I know some guys struggle with the 80% full and they're like, I don't know when I'm 80% full. I don't know. It's like, well, there's no gauge that tells you exactly when you're 80% full. So for me, that my ability to go for a brisk walk after a meal is kind of my gauge where I'm like, okay, I could do that if I wanted to. And oftentimes I do too. I'll get done a meal and then I'll go take the dogs for a walk afterwards.
I first heard of the walking after a meal from Stan Efferding. He had a YouTube video and mentioned this. That's where I heard about it. But this has been around for a while. And there was actually a study done comparing the effects of a 10-minute walk after a meal on blood sugar control versus metformin, the diabetic drug. And they said walking after a meal has actually been more effective for lowering and controlling blood sugar than taking prescription drug metformin. And of course, walking after a meal is free. There's no side effects. It's a lot healthier, but that's a great gauge. And it's a great habit to actually implement. Like, okay, once we finish dinner, we're going to go for a little walk. And it doesn't have to be crazy. It could literally be a 10-minute walk. And that's what the study was. It was a 10-minute walk. Like put on your sneakers, walk up the road for 5 minutes, turn around, walk back. It doesn't have to be some high intensity cardio session or hit intervals or sprints. Like, no, walk your ass up the road and turn around and walk back. Like that's it. I mean, if you could do that, that's a great gauge. And it would also be an amazing habit because if you did that, I mean, most people would probably burn 50 to 100 calories in that 10-minute walk, depending on how big you are. That's another way to create a little calorie deficit, but it also improves your blood sugar control and your digestion. And that would be a limiter of how much you're going to gorge yourself, because think of after Thanksgiving dinner or after a trip to the all-you-can-eat buffet. Like, I know back in the day when we used to visit the all-you-can-eat buffet, like it was a challenge to just walk back to the car afterwards. Like, oh my God, I don't even want to do this. Waddling up to the car after the buffet, right? I mean, the thought of actually doing any more than that was not happening.
Yeah, and if it feels like that when you get done eating, then you definitely overdid it. That's for sure.
Of all the stuff we just shared, if people just implemented that, stopping before you're stuffed, and then going for a 10-minute walk, that would keep someone's weight under control. Like that could be a sustainable weight management tactic right there for long-term sustainable results without even overcomplicating yourself with, oh, what's the best calories? What's the best macros? Should I go keto? Should I go paleo? Should I go this? Should I go that? Should I go vegan? No, just don't eat too damn much.
Right. Totally. Well, I have it on my mind too. Another simple swap that somebody could make to lose weight very effectively is to swap out liquid calories. That is a huge, huge game changer. A massive swap that you could make. It's a simple swap, but one that could lead to some massive, massive changes. I've seen a lot of people make huge progress with that. I'm sure you have too.
just give some real world examples. Like, what are some liquid calories that you have changed or swapped out?
Well, the biggest one that probably has made the biggest impact on my fat loss has been cutting out alcohol entirely. So instead of drinking beer on the weekends, and because I'm out at the clubs all the time on the weekend with the band, is I'll have a seltzer water with lime. And if anybody asks if they're like, "Oh, what are you drinking there?" I'll just be like, "Oh, it's a tequila soda." Or something like that, vodka sodas. I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable who are out there drinking. Because if you say like, "Oh, I'm just drinking water tonight," then you get all kinds of peer pressure and criticism and all that. But that simple swap right there. When I'm going out to the gigs, instead of drinking beer or hard liquor or anything like that, drinking soda water with lime. And then if I want to have a beer, I'll have a non-alcoholic beer instead of having one with alcohol. And especially nowadays, because with all like the rise of like craft breweries and things like that, everybody seems to have their own non-alcoholic beer, and a lot of them taste just like an actual beer, like an average beer that you would have. So I still get the same kind of satisfaction hanging out sometimes on the weekends with buddies at bars and stuff. I'll just get a non-alcoholic one. It's like I don't even miss it. So that was a big swap for me. That made a huge impact. Other things are like soda, cutting out soda entirely. I used to get, my wife calls it a full fat Coke.
Yeah. Right.
But cutting out regular soda. If I want to have soda, I'll have diet soda. I try not to drink soda at all, but if I want to, or I'll have a seltzer water again, and I'll use those like water drop tablets.
Okay.
Just to flavor it up a little bit. Electrolyte powder and regular water to flavor it up a little bit. But those are some examples of some swaps I made with liquid calories. But huge habit change right there that led to massive results.
I've even seen guys in our coaching program that I've worked with, one individual in particular, he was like addicted to soda. And of course, it was the regular full sugar sodas, and he was drinking a lot of it. And this was the only suggestion. I said, for the first month, I just want you to swap out your soda for diet soda. That's it. And he dropped 10 pounds in the first month just from that alone. Like no calorie tracking, no weighing, measuring, didn't change his workout routine. Like he was already going to the gym anyway. Like a lot of guys, he enjoyed going to the gym 3 to 4 days a week, but he just ate whatever the hell he wanted. And of course, with the soda, drank whatever he wanted as well. So like there was no nutrition structure whatsoever, but he actually enjoyed going to the gym. He just liked working out. He had a few buddies that he worked out with as well. So the only swap he made in his first month was diet soda in place of the regular soda, and he lost 10 pounds. I mean, it can literally be that massive. And you look at the calorie consumption, because again, soda is just loaded with sugar. It's insane. So that's a massive calorie reduction. Of course, massive blood sugar spikes and all that stuff. Huge. I mean, it's one of the biggest ones for sure. Soda consumption. If anybody is saying, "Oh, I'm struggling with my weight," and they're still drinking regular soda, that's the first step right there. Get that out of your diet. At least swap it for diet. And people say, "Well, I don't like the taste of diet soda. I can taste the difference." Do you like being fat? Right? Do you like having diabetes? Do you like, shortening your lifespan? Well, learn to like diet soda. Or just cut it out.
Right. And it'll save you a ton of money too. That's another thing, is like all the money that I've saved over the years from cutting out alcohol and buying soda and beverages that have calories. 95% of what I drink is just water from the tap.
Speaking of the money saving there, I don't know if you guys have it where you live, but here in Newfoundland, we have a sugar tax on soda. So it's actually cheaper to buy diet soda than it is to buy the regular soda, because there's a tax added onto it. And this is a government's way of trying to discourage people, whether it actually works or not, or it's just another cash cow for the government to make more money. But still, it's actually cheaper to buy diet soda than it is to buy regular soda. So that's another incentive for somebody, if you're not going to do it for your health, do it for your pocketbook.
Yeah. This could lead us into another topic here, is about saving money, and also how eating healthy doesn't have to be expensive, and how losing weight doesn't have to be expensive either. So, I mean, there's a number of different hacks and different ways that I found how to save money in like from going through this process over the years that I could share with you if you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge one, because that's a common issue that I hear from friends and family and coaching students. It's like, healthy food is more expensive. They eat their French fries and their frozen pizzas because that stuff is cheap, and they'll justify eating pork because it's cheap. And the crazy thing is, nowadays poorer communities tend to have higher rates of obesity. Poor is not skinny and malnourished anymore. Like back in the day, you think, oh, if someone was poor, they never had enough to eat and they were skinny. Nowadays, when someone's poor, they're obese because they tend to eat these cheap, low quality foods, which are very calorie dense.
Right.
Is eating healthy more expensive? I mean, and is there ways to make it more affordable? What are some of your money saving tips?
Well, okay. So the first thing I would say is that I make most of my meals. Like, I might go out for dinner. I might go out and buy a meal at like a restaurant maybe once a week. And most of the time I don't at all. I make everything at home. So I do all of my own cooking and my own preparation, which is great if you're trying to lose weight, because then you're also in control of what you're putting in your food to begin with. How you're preparing your food instead of trusting somebody else to do it. So saving money by not going out to eat is massive. And then if you could buy things in bulk, like potatoes, which are really super high on the satiety index, apples, fruit, rice, things like that. I mean, you go to the store, you buy a sack of potatoes, there you go. You have your carbs for the week right there. You go buy a bag of rice, a giant bag of jasmine rice or brown rice or whatever kind of rice you like. It really doesn't matter. You could get a great deal on that rice there and then have that in your cupboard there for months on end. So it's really like the only things I buy at the grocery store nowadays are protein and vegetables. That's really it. And then if I'm running low on potatoes or rice or quinoa or something like that, then I'll pick some of that up. But I always buy it in bulk and I always have it ready to go all the time. So if you're just buying vegetables and lean protein, and not all protein is expensive. Like, you're going and you're buying like certain types of fish or something like that, that could be expensive. But I found I've saved money by buying ground meat. So buying lean turkey, lean ground beef, pork. Pork is very cheap. You can get a pack of pork tenderloins for like $2 or $3. You get like 4 of them right there. Tuna fish, that's another one. That's another strategy that I've used on the road as well. You get the tuna fish, like the bagged tuna fish, like it packs really easy. So you could just take that right there. And it's like, if you had like a backpack or something like that, and you were like on the road, or if you had like a lunchbox, you could just put like a couple packs of those like tuna fish things in there, those tuna fish bags, and then just like roll up some nuts, something like that, throw that in there, and there you go. You'd have a healthy snack, healthy meal while you're traveling. And I mean, how expensive is a can of tuna fish? How expensive is a bag of tuna fish? Like $1 for a can right there. I go to the grocery store, I'll spend like, I don't know, like $100 to $150 a week or something like that on groceries. That's really not expensive compared to somebody who's going out to eat all the time, or who's buying junk food or takeout all the time, or who's spending money on alcohol all the time. That's another thing. And food is something that I have no hangups spending money on at all, because in my mind, that's a worthy investment. That's something I would much rather spend money on healthy food and being preventative of different obesity related diseases and things like that, than trying to save money eating processed crap and then having health issues, or my body not functioning or working the way that it's intended to work. So some things are worth the money, in my opinion, and nutrition and food are one of those things that's worth the money. But the upside of that is that you don't have to break the bank and eat healthy at the same time.
That's very powerful. And I love that philosophy. This is an investment. Trying to save money by shortcutting your health, right? I'm going to ruin my health to save money. I mean, like, that's not an investment, because once you start having health issues, anybody who's on prescription medications and hospital visits and blah, 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 like, that is astronomical, the costs of that. And then, of course, the inconvenience and the reduced quality of life. And then not only that, then if somebody is suffering from health issues and they're not able to look after themselves, then they're a burden on their family. So, I mean, it goes way beyond just the financial. I mean, it destroys your quality of life. After all, like, what are we here for? We want to live the best quality of life we can. That's the whole purpose. And food is the foundation to that. But you mean, those are some great strategies. I mean, I include a lot of those myself. And when you look at food, first off, your food choices, carbohydrates are the cheapest. Again, like the bulk bags of rice, the bulk bags of quinoa, the bulk bags of pasta, potatoes, oatmeal, like that stuff. When you look at it per serving, I mean, it's pennies per serving. Like it's such a cheap alternative. I mean, that's cheaper than your frozen pizzas and your French fries and whatever else you're getting in the freezer section of the grocery store, your frozen lasagnas and all that stuff. You can go save so much money with that. So carbohydrates are not a big issue. When it comes to the protein and veggies, that can be pricey, but there are ways around it. You mentioned getting the ground meats and stuff like that. And Costco or any of these bulk shopping places, like I know Sam's Club in the States, they have that. But for us, Costco is the big one. I mean, I have a Costco membership and I take advantage of it. And I find like I can go buy steaks and vegetables and chicken and fish for a lot of times half the price of what I get in the grocery store. Because usually it's the same price, but I get twice as much. Like, for example, buy 2 bags of those salads that I mentioned earlier for the same price as buying one at the grocery store. You know, for the cottage cheese I buy, like I get a 2-pack for the same price as one at the grocery store. Like that's usually the way it works a lot of times. So I get my eggs, my egg whites, my cottage cheese, my Greek yogurt, chicken, fish, meats, the ground turkey. I get all that stuff at Costco, and it's more often than not cheaper and really good quality. So that's a great hack right there. Another one that you can get frozen fruit and frozen vegetables for like less than half the price of buying it fresh. So if someone's really budget, getting the frozen options. Granted, sometimes it doesn't taste as good, especially depending on how you're preparing it or cooking it. I mean, like I wouldn't want to eat a thawed out frozen salad if there was such a thing. Like that wouldn't taste good. But if you're steaming or stir frying or cooking, like you could have your frozen broccoli, for example, and make a stir fry with that, like maybe broccoli and peppers and beef and stuff like that, stir fry it up from frozen versus fresh. Not going to be a lot of difference. You know, it probably tastes just as good, and it would be a lot cheaper. A big bag of frozen strawberries versus getting the pints of fresh strawberries. Like
night and day, You
know, for blender smoothies and stuff like that, I get the frozen berries, and I mean, that's a great little hack there. It's an inexpensive way to get some good quality nutrition in there. The big one that you mentioned already, making your own food. Like people think, oh, I can't afford to eat healthy, so I'm going to go to McDonald's. There's nothing cheap about McDonald's these days or any fast food place. For our family to go and have a burger and fries at McDonald's, it's going to cost us like $50 or more to go and have a burger and fries each. Do you realize how many meals we can make at home for $50?
Yeah, it's not even that good though. That's the thing.
I can make my own burger that tastes way better and way healthier for way less. So making your own food versus eating out is huge, and that's a big hang up for a lot of people. Like,
learn to cook. Cooking is a valuable skill that everybody should know how to do. You should know how to cook. There's some people out there who don't know how to cook. It's like, learn. It's not that hard. You don't have to be a gourmet chef to make delicious meals at home. But yeah, I know people who eat out more than they eat at home. People who eat out every single day. And I mean, imagine the expense from doing that. Plus, it's like they sneak things in there because their job is to make the food as palatable as possible. So you don't even know what's going in your food. So then you get something and you get like a salad or something like that, but it's like the salad has fried lo mein in it or something like that, or olive oil drizzled on the top, or the protein that comes out has fat and has been cooked in butter or something. So your salad that you're getting at the restaurant, you think you're making the healthy choice there, but that salad ends up being 1,500 calories because of all that added extra stuff. It very well could be, yeah.
We actually did a video about this a while back. I don't know if you remember, back when we were in Nashville hanging out a couple of years ago, this was a question that some people had asked from our coaching group, and you and I made a video talking about it, where we compared restaurant meals, the calories that they listed on their nutritional guide versus what was actually in the meals when they tested it. I'll link to that video in the description below. But like certain restaurants say, oh, we have a 500 calorie dish, and when they actually tested it, it'd probably be like 800 calories. The dish that they made for their nutritional testing batch, if you will, was probably very conservative with the oil and the leanest cuts of meat and things like that, or the small amounts of butter, so they could get the ideal numbers, the ideal calories and macros to make it look good on a nutrition guide. But when you have the chef in there in the moment, throwing the oil in the pan, throwing the butter in there, stirring it up and cooking it, trying to rush the food out as fast as possible, like he's not measuring that tablespoon of oil. He's just drizzling it on, or that
right.
that spoonful of butter or whatever. Like, again, they're throwing it together as fast as they can, next and get the food out. And very often it could be a 50% or more calorie discrepancy. So like you look at the menu and it says, oh, here's our light 500 calorie lunch. Meanwhile, that's 800 plus calories or more, but you're tracking it as 500 and wonder, well, I'm not losing weight. Why not? Well, you do that meal after meal after meal, that could certainly make a noticeable difference. But if you make it yourself, you know what's going in there. You're in control.
Yeah.
The big thing about this is it really comes down to consistency, long-term consistency with all these little habits. Instead of thinking of, oh, I'm going to go on some short-term diet for a few weeks or a 90-day transformation or whatever. These are things that have to be part of your day-to-day routine. There is no finish line. It's just, these are things that you're going to start to do and do as a lifestyle. This is sustainable. It doesn't feel like you're on a diet. And that's the big thing is we have to enjoy this. We have to enjoy the process. And ultimately, success in anything, but especially success when it comes to fitness and nutrition, you have to feel good about it. Because even if you're getting the results, but if you feel miserable in the process, how long can you suffer it out for before you just say, screw it, it's not worth it anymore? Like, I could give you the boiled chicken and broccoli diet and say, hey, you got to be doing 2 hours of cardio and 2 hours of weight training and burning the candle at both ends and starve yourself. And you might get the results, like on the surface, you're lean, you're losing the weight, you're like, all the surface level results are there. But if you feel miserable underneath, how long are you going to suffer that out before you just say, screw it, it's not worth it? Right? Like, everyone's going to have their threshold of how much crap they can take before they just throw in the towel. So you have to enjoy the process. Like, it's not oh, I'd like to enjoy the process, or it'd be nice if I could. No, you have to. If you don't enjoy the process, this is not going to be a sustainable journey.
Yeah. I think people have it in their head that losing weight has to be this miserable experience. And it doesn't have to be that way. If I showed you two different ways to get to where you want to get to, one involves suffering it out and being miserable and having no energy, and one involves eating a lot of food, enjoying yourself, and recomping your body, and you don't have to suffer or be hungry all the time, which way would you choose? It just seems obvious to me.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it that way, it absolutely does. It is obvious here. Just to kind of finish this up now, I mean, water cuts through rock because of its consistency and its persistence. And like, that's the same way you're going to cut through your body fat. It's not through some crazy tactic or some extreme approach. It's just that day-to-day consistency, like never giving up, refusing to quit, and following these fundamentals, you'll get to the results. I mean, granted, in the real world, it's probably going to take longer than you think, because we're brainwashed into having these get-ripped-quick solutions thrown at us everywhere, right? All these miracle diets and quick fix solutions and 30-day shreds and whatever. It's not going to happen. Like, it takes a time. Anybody who's been doing this and has achieved real-world results, it's not something they did in a matter of a few weeks or a few months. It's something they did over the course of years. And once you wrap your head around that, like, okay, this is a lifelong journey, and you accept it and stop looking for the quick fix, it really becomes an easier and enjoyable process. Like you mentioned, it's not this suffer it out in the short term. It's just like, okay, I'm going to have this enjoyable journey that I'm going to settle into for life.
Yeah, because you're not just so determined to grind it out to the finish line. There is no finish line. And if you enjoy the process and you enjoy your lifestyle, then however long it takes, you're going to get there before you know it. Like 5 years goes by like that. And then before you know it, you can look back and you can say, okay, wow, it all worked. And all I had to do was just trust the process, as opposed to the other method, which grinding it out, which often leads to being on and then being off and then being on and then being off. It actually ends up taking longer doing it that way because you're not being consistent.
Or there's no results at all usually. Because like, let's just say you lose 30 pounds by suffering it out. And then a year later, you got 40 pounds back on.
Yeah.
You're no further ahead. In fact, very often people get fatter with every diet they do because of the rebound weight gain. You starve yourself, you lose fat and you lose muscle. So now you have a slower metabolism, and then you rebound and go back to your old eating habits. You pile on the fat, right? It's a vicious cycle.
Think of it like this, right? If you were somebody who was like into the stock market and you were constantly buying and selling and buying and selling and buying and selling, you're going to accumulate less money over time than somebody who just puts their money in one place and just leaves it there for X amount of months and X amounts of years. It's the same exact thing with fat loss. Just trust the basics and just be in it for the long term. And you'll get there way quicker than the person who's trying to get there in 30 days or as quick as possible.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the podcast. And if you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please feel free to share it with them. I mean, if you could help us to spread the word, that's going to help to get this message out there and allow us to create more content like this and reach more people and just create that positive impact all around. And if you would like some help with your own fitness goals, maybe it's building muscle, losing fat, improving your health, getting in your best shape. If you would like some help with that, then feel free to reach out to me. I have my contact information down in the show notes below, and you can book in for a free one-on-one strategy session coaching call with me, and we can discuss a realistic action plan that's right for you. And if I feel that you're a good fit, I may invite you to come on board and join our VIP coaching program. And if it's not a good fit and I feel that I'm not the right person to help you, then I'm not going to give you hype or BS, but I will point you in the right direction to somebody who can help you. I mean, I've got a large network of people in the fitness industry, so if I don't feel that you're a good fit for our coaching program or that I can help you, I'll be able to point you in the right direction to somebody who can. So either way, at the end of your free strategy session coaching call, you'll walk away with better insights on what you need to do next in order to reach your health and fitness goals. So that clues it up for today's episode, and we'll be back again next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with another episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. Take care. Over and out.